What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And I just got done watching Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. So did I like it? Did I not like it? Reminder, I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. I haven't liked all of his movies, but I've liked the vast majority of them. I've loved some of them. And Rebel Moon, the first one, was a movie that was filled with flaws, and I had a ton of problems with it, but for the most part, I had a pretty enjoyable experience watching it. It's definitely one of Zack Snyder's weakest films, but I did fall on the positive side with the first one. Barely. So, was Scargiver any better? The answer is yes. Scargiver is a lot better than the first one. It's still not one of Zack Snyder's best movies by any stretch of the imagination. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, The Guardians of Ga'Hoole, 300. These are all movies that are far, far, far superior to Rebel Moon Part 2. But Rebel Moon Part 2 is a step up from the first one for a couple reasons. Number one, it does a better job world building. The first movie definitely set a compelling world, but this one expands on it, and it feels like a bigger world. Most of the action is still spent on the world that we're defending, and the ship. I think the Dreadnought is the name of the ship. Is it the Dreadnought, or is that Star Wars? I don't know. It's easy to get these two confused because they're very, very, very similar. Right down to a lightsaber duel at the end of the movie. But this one also did a better job of making us care about the characters. It expanded upon the backstory of these characters. Did it expand upon the backstory in a interesting way? Not really. There was about a third of the way, maybe halfway into the film, there was this big exposition dump where they just dump the backstories of all these characters. Our Magnificent Seven. You know, they did a backstory exposition dump and let us know the backstory of a lot of these characters. And while it wasn't the most compelling way to display this information, it still gave us the information, and it was good information for the most part. The first movie sold a Magnificent Seven type story where this town or planet is being threatened by a tyrant, and the town is, or planet in this case, is filled with peasants, farmers. So they decide to go out and get warriors to defend them. The promise of that was never fulfilled upon in the first movie. We never got our defense of the homeland Magnificent Seven moment. We definitely get it in this movie. It's still not done as well as the Magnificent Seven or even the Magnificent Seven remake. It's not done as well, but they had it, they delivered on the promise, and it was mostly good. The action was definitely better in this version. Zack Snyder still loves his slow motion. I tell you, there's a scene in this movie where you see the farmers farming, and one farmer has a bucket full of grain, and she kind of flips the grain up in the air while still hanging onto the bucket, and it slow-mos the grain going up and then down. Zack Snyder and his slow-mo, it's so funny. But the action, they delivered upon it. They delivered on the promise, and the action really started about halfway into the movie. There was about an hour of movie left, maybe a little less, when they started the assault on the planet. Ed Skrein is great as the villain. Sofia Boutella cannot carry a movie. She's not a good actress. She's got the physicality to play a role like this, but she's not a lead actress material. And there's a scene in this movie towards the end where she has to cry, and she just does not sell it at all. It made me chuckle. So this is better than the first one. I fall on the side of this being a good movie. It's still filled with problems, though. It's very similar pacing wise to the first one, a lot of the same plot points and even plot beats that you got in the first one, you get in this one. Same villain and kind of the same motivations behind the villain and the characters in this movie. There's no real change in motivations. The story that we got in the first one, we're getting again in the second one. We're just changing the location of the final battle. So it does feel a little redundant in a lot of ways. I think the biggest weak point here, though, is Sofia Boutella. I just don't think she's a good actress. You know, I know some people come down on Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot's way better than Sofia Boutella. Again, she's just a very physical actress that comes from her background in dance, but she just doesn't have the acting chops to pull off a role like this. So, and another criticism is that while we did get backstories, and those backstories were mostly compelling for our leads, our warriors, all the characters in this movie they're all still undercooked. There's no real character development here. Not even really with Sofia Boutella's character. You know, Gunnar probably has the most character development here. And I like that they didn't make him an incompetent male in order to prop up the female star. Gunnar was very competent, and in a lot of ways he was the driving force behind the action, and in some ways he was definitely the hero of the story. There's a scene where he saves a female character from a male aggressor, and he saves her, and she probably wouldn't have gotten out of that predicament without his intervention. So I appreciate that they don't dumb down or make the male lead incompetent in order to prop up the female. I've talked about that a lot. I'm all about female empowerment. I have a daughter that I love very much, and I would love for her to be able to see these strong characters, these Ellen Ripleys, these Sarah Connors. But I also don't want her to see men having to be dumbed down in order to project women that way, because that sends the wrong message. I also don't want to see my son, who I want my son to grow up to be a strong, confident male, and I don't want to see him see males have to be dumbed down in order to prop up women. That doesn't send the right message to either one of them. So I'm happy to say this movie mostly didn't do that kind of thing. They mostly allowed the men to be the characters that they are, that the story fleshed them out to be naturally. So that was great. So definitely some criticisms here, but mostly had an enjoyable experience. The movie really picks up about halfway through. The first half I was maybe slightly bored, not completely bored, but slightly. And the second half I was very engaged, very glued in, and really had a good time with it. So this movie definitely opens itself up for sequels, spin-offs, everything else you can imagine. It's all in here. It's all opened up for it. And I'm here for now for it. For now, I'm here for it. He hasn't lost me yet. So that's my take on Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Have you seen it? If so, what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, subscribe to my channel. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.